Welcome back to our news bulletin. The Afghan government has urged the Taliban to extend a 3-day ceasefire, which is due to end tonight. Addressing a press conference, National Security Council spokesperson Javed Faisal said the ceasefire must be extended to avoid bloodshed. Faisal said Kabul is ready to extend the ceasefire and added that the government will release 900 more Taliban prisoners today. The two sides are required to release 6,000 prisoners under the Doha peace deal. In Pakistan, the number of COVID-19 cases has surpassed 57,000, with 1,356 infections reported in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, 30 more people have died across the country, raising the toll to nearly 1,200. The Health Ministry said the number of daily tests in the country dropped to 7,252 from yesterday's 10,050. It said over 18,000 people have recovered from the disease, while 407 remain critical. Medics said the province of Sindh leads in the number of infections with nearly 23,000 cases. Yesterday, Special Assistant to Prime Minister on Health, Dr. Zafar Mirza, warned that lockdown may get stringent once again over people's negligence. He said the easing of lockdown does not indicate the end of the pandemic in the country. Now on towards the U.S., where the death toll from the new coronavirus has surpassed 98,000 with 532 fatalities in the past 24 hours. The global COVID-19 death toll has crossed 346,000 with nearly 5.5 million infections. This report has further details.
Brazil has become the new coronavirus flashpoint, as its daily virus deaths surpassed overnight fatalities in the U.S. for the first time. The country now has the second worst outbreak in the world, with nearly 375,000 cases. After 2 months of strict lockdown, Greece has entered its fourth phase of lifting restrictions, while the UK also announced to ease restrictions by June 15th. But in the US, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo declined to predict the time frame for easing lockdown.
Now, people can speculate, people can guess. I think next week, I think 2 weeks, I think a month. I'm out of that business because we all failed at that business, right? All the early national experts, here's my projection model, here's my projection model. They were all wrong. They were all wrong.
While speculations mount that the novel coronavirus was originated in the Wuhan lab in China, a leading researcher from Wuhan Institute of Virology has debunked conspiracy theories surrounding the origins of COVID-19.
These viruses exist in nature, whether we admit it or not. If we don't study them, there will possibly be another outbreak, and we wouldn't know them.
Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison says the country won't open its borders anytime soon, but the government was continuing to discuss a travel corridor with New Zealand.
The World Health Organization says if COVID-19 lockdown measures are eased, countries can face an immediate second peak. During an online briefing, WHO Emergencies Head Dr. Mike Ryan said the world is still in the middle of the first wave. Ryan said while cases are declining in many countries, they are still increasing in Central and South America, South Asia and Africa. He said epidemics often come in waves, which means outbreaks can come back later this year in subsided places. He said countries in Europe and North America should continue to put in place public health and social measures. Hong Kong's leader Carrie Lam says China's proposed national security laws will not infringe upon the city's rights and freedoms. Speaking at a news conference, Lam said other countries have no place interfering in the territory. Lam called on citizens to wait to see the details of the legislation for more clarity. She said Hong Kong has always upheld and preserved the values of freedom of speech, expression and protest.
But ultimately, what is to be provided in this piece of legislation is for all of us to see in order to be assured that Hong Kong's freedoms will be preserved, and Hong Kong's vibrancy and core values in terms of the rule of law, the independence of the judiciary, the various rights and freedoms enjoyed by people will continue to be there.
Tensions between China and India persist as soldiers from both sides held a standoff on at least 3 different sites on the line of actual control. In an unprecedented turn of events in May, the 2 countries' soldiers were reported to have indulged in skirmishes, fist fight and stone pelting. The 2 countries have accused each other of trespassing into their territory at an undefined boundary line between China and India. Both sides claim the other one is constructing roads and bunkers in their border disputed areas. Indian Army Chief General M.M. Narawan visited Ladakh last week for a security review of the sensitive sector. Indian media reported a build-up of forces at the LAC in Ladakh and the northeastern state of Sikkim. A UN investigation into a recent exchange of gunfire between the 2 Koreas has determined that both sides violated the armistice that ended the Korean War. The 3rd May gunfire exchange was the first shooting inside the Korean demilitarized zone in about 2.5 years. In a statement, the UN command said that North Korea breached the armistice by firing 4 rounds and South Korea by returning fire. The UN command said that a multinational special investigation team led the probe with the full cooperation of the South Korean military. It also said it invited North Korea to provide information on the incident, but the country has not offered a formal response. The demilitarized zone is jointly overseen by North Korea and the UN command. France says its relations with Iran have become more difficult after Tehran sentenced a French-Iranian academic to prison. In an interview, Foreign Minister Jean-Louis Le Drian said the verdict was politically motivated and Tehran should release Fareed Adel-Khan without delay. He said the sentencing was founded on no serious elements. Adel-Khan was sentenced to 6 years in jail on national security charges earlier this month. In Yemen, 5 people have been killed in a bomb blast in the eastern Hadramaut province. Local media says that an improvised explosive device targeted a vehicle carrying Colonel Saleh Al-Jaber and 4 other people. In a tweet, Information Ministry official Mohammad Ghazan confirmed the incident but did not share any details. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far. Yemen has been beset by violence and chaos since 2014, when Houthi rebels overran much of the country, including the capital, Sana'a. Turkey says it has killed 4 militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in airstrikes during a counter-terrorist operation in northern Iraq. The National Defense Ministry said military operations were carried out in the Hakkok region. The ministry said Turkey will continue to destroy weapon caches and shelters used by the terrorists. It said over 400 Kurdish militants have been killed in northern Iraq over the past 5 months. State media said PKK militants often use northern Iraq to plan cross-border terrorist attacks in Turkey. Turkey holds the PKK responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year terror campaign. Now, Turkey has reiterated the need for a political solution in the war-torn Libya. In an interview, Ankaра's presidential spokesman said countries supporting Khalifa Haftar are on the wrong side of history. Ibrahim Kalin said Eastern forces continue to attack their own people, sending ripples of violence across the country. He said Turkey sent some advisors to help the Libyan government bring a degree of balance to the conflict. Earlier this year, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said more than 2,000 Russian Wagner mercenaries were fighting in the war-ravaged country. We're now taking a short break, but stay tuned for more news. The Palestinian Authority says it is committed to maintaining order and applying its sovereignty in the West Bank. Speaking at a press conference, Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh declared freedom of all agreements with Israel over its repeated violation of terms. Shtayyeh said they are battling over Palestinian national existence in the territory. He said the authority will work to prevent Israel's annexation of Palestinian land for the sake of settlement expansion. Shtayyeh said the PA will not allow the civil rights of Palestinians to be trampled. Tensions between Palestine and Israel have accelerated after Tel Aviv said it will annex parts of the West Bank and Jordan Valley. In Ecuador, thousands of people are protesting the government's economic measures in the face of a liquidity crisis amid the novel coronavirus outbreak. Unions and social organizations burned tires in the capital city of Quito as the police guarded the government palace. The global economic meltdown has reduced state revenues by about $8 billion, leading the government to cut public spending. Ecuador's President Lenin Moreno has modified the conditions of private sector contracts and introduced a system to set fuel prices. Over 4,000 demonstrators defied lockdown restrictions to protest the government's attempts to reduce state subsidies. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro says he expects the Supreme Court to hold an investigation into his alleged interference in federal police matters. In a statement, Bolsonaro denied the allegations, saying all such claims were frivolous. Bolsonaro said he expected the probe to be treated with responsibility and serenity, which is still in its early stages. If the Supreme Court decides to go to trial, the president will have to give up the office for 180 days as a defendant. In April, Brazil's Attorney General opened a criminal investigation after former Justice Minister Sergio Moro accused Bolsonaro of political interference. Last week, the court released a video in which Bolsonaro said he was going to change security officials to prevent his family and friends from getting affected. 8 people have died in Uganda after a boat capsized in Lake Albert, straddling the country's western border. Police said the overloaded boat was carrying 18 people and 10 have been rescued. The authorities said most of the people traveling on the boat were from the Democratic Republic of Congo. They said the incident took place about 400 meters from the Uzuza landing site in Kiuke district. The boat was carrying 18 passengers heading to the Sebigoro landing site in the Kanga Valley sub-county. Officials said efforts to retrieve the victims' bodies were underway. In the U.S., 9 people have been killed in Chicago over the Memorial Day weekend, the deadliest one since 2015. Police say at least 36 people were shot from Friday afternoon to Monday morning. The number of shootings was already close to 2019's total, despite the coronavirus stay-at-home orders and police patrols. Last year, 7 people were killed and 43 were wounded over the long holiday. In 2018, 7 were killed and 30 were wounded, while 2017 and 2016 recorded 6 deaths each. At the beginning of the weekend, Chicago police announced opening a summer operations center to clamp down on summer gun violence. In the Czech Republic, the National Museum is opening an exhibition of face masks worn to protect against COVID-19. It aims to signal that one day the coronavirus will be history. Let's find out more in this report.
The Czech government was one of the first to make it compulsory to wear a mask outside the home. Although opinions differ on what kind of difference masks have made, when the crisis began, industrially made masks were in short supply, which prompted a nationwide effort to make them at home. Now they are being displayed at the National Museum.
It makes sense for sure because it shows the art and creativity of our people. It was exciting when the masks were not available all around the world, and our nation had made them in 3 weeks. Soon everyone had his own masks, even funny, nice, and artistically well made.
Among those on display is a mask with a map of the Prague metro made by an autistic teenager, and one created to raise awareness about ovarian cancer by a non-profit organization.
Some of the masks also feature love stories, like this mask from the wedding shirt of someone's husband. The lady was unable to throw it away until the coronavirus crisis, when she cut it and sewed masks for her husband.
The exhibition opens today, just as the government relaxes its mask policy. People will no longer have to wear them outdoors, but must still do so on public transport and in public buildings, including the museum.
We're now taking a short break, but stay tuned for more news. Largest German airline Lufthansa has agreed on a rescue deal worth €9 billion with the government. The firm's shareholders and the European Commission still has to approve the deal. As part of the rescue package, the German government will also inject €5.7 billion in non-voting capital, which is known as a silent participation. The government will also take a 20% stake in the firm, which it intends to sell by the end of 2023. Germany's finance minister Olaf Scholz said the support is only for a limited period. The bailout deal is the result of weeks of talks between Lufthansa and the German government about financial aid that will save up to 10,000 jobs. Germany has set aside a fund of €100 billion to help shore up companies struck down by the pandemic. European stock markets are trading higher as investors track positive global market sentiment. There is growing optimism for a potential COVID-19 vaccine. London's FTSE 100 is trading over 1.5% higher. CAC 40 in Paris has gained nearly 1.5%. Frankfurt's DAX is trading nearly 1%. In Asia, Nikkei 225 led the gains, closing over 2.5%, followed by Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index, which gained nearly 2%. Seoul's Kospi gained over 1.5%, while Shanghai Composite closed over 1% higher. Meanwhile, international benchmark Brent crude oil price gained over 1%. Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.